The first time Officer Elena Vargas saw Inmate, Amara 417 walked through the steel gates of Blackridge, Women's Correctional Facility. She felt something inside her shift in a way that terrified her. The inmate's wrists were cuffed. Her uniform hung loosely from recent weight loss, and there was a bruise darkening the edge of her jaw. Yet she walked as if the chains were temporary and the walls around her were made of paper. Her name was Amara Collins, and she carried silence like armor. Elena had spent 12 years inside those concrete corridors, had witnessed violence, manipulation, heartbreak, and regret, but she had never seen someone who looked both so broken and so unbreakable at the same time. Blackridge was a place where hope thinned quickly. The air smelled of disinfectant and despair, and the fluorescent lights hummed through endless nights. Officer Naomi Reed, Elena's partner on the evening shift, noticed the way Elena's eyes followed the new inmate down the corridor. Naomi had always been sharper at reading people. She nudged Elena gently, a silent reminder to stay professional. They both knew how dangerous emotional involvement could be inside those walls. The rules were clear and the consequences were brutal. But rules did not silence the human heart. Amara had been convicted of armed robbery. The file said she had acted alone, that she had pointed a weapon at a convenience store clerk, that she had taken money she desperately needed. What the file did not describe was the sick mother at home, the eviction notice folded in her pocket that night, or the fear that had clouded her judgment. Prison files rarely told the whole truth. They told enough to justify a sentence, but never enough to understand a soul. Days turned into weeks, and Elena found herself assigned repeatedly to cell block D, where Amara was housed. It started with small observations. Amara rarely spoke to other inmates. She kept to herself during meals, read old paperback novels from the prison library, and spent hours staring through the barred window at a thin strip of sky. She did not start fights. She did not complain. She carried her loneliness quietly, and somehow that quietness echoed loudly inside Elena. Naomi noticed the pattern before Elena admitted it to herself. Naomi had always known she loved Elena, though she had buried that love beneath layers of discipline and fear. Their relationship had grown over years of shared night shifts, shared coffee breaks, shared laughter in a place that rarely offered reasons to laugh. They had never labeled what they were to each other, but their hands often brushed longer than necessary, and their eyes lingered. It was a love shaped by secrecy, by caution, by the unspoken understanding that being openly together could complicate their careers. In the controlled order of prison life, they had carved out a small, hidden tenderness. The tension began the afternoon Amara collapsed in the yard. The sun had been merciless and dehydration had drained the color from her face. Elena was the first to reach her, as she knelt on the concrete. Lifting Amara's head gently, their eyes met for the first time without distance. There was no manipulation in Amara's gaze, no attempt to charm or deceive. There was simply exhaustion and something else, something like relief. Naomi stood beside Elena, calling for medical assistance, but she could not ignore the electricity that passed between them in that brief contact. From that day forward, something shifted among all three women. Elena began volunteering for additional shifts in cell block D. She told herself it was to ensure order, to prevent conflict, to maintain discipline. But in truth, she wanted to make sure Amara was eating, that she was sleeping, that she was surviving. Naomi felt the change like a slow crack forming in glass. She trusted Elena, but she feared the unpredictable power of proximity. Love inside prison was dangerous. Love that crossed the line between officer and inmate was catastrophic. Amara, for her part, tried to keep her distance. She understood the imbalance of power. She knew the rumors that could destroy a correctional officer's career. Yet she also recognized the gentleness in Elena's eyes and the quiet strength in Naomi's posture. For the first time since her arrest, she felt seen not as a case number but as a person. That recognition was both comforting and terrifying. Winter came harsh and gray. Snow pressed against the narrow windows, and the cold seemed to seep through the concrete. During a routine inspection, Elena found a letter in Amara's cell. It was from her younger sister, describing how their mother's health had worsened. The letter was tear-stained. Prison regulations required that officers read incoming mail for contraband, but they were not required to feel its weight. Elena felt it deeply. That night she went home restless, the words replaying in her mind. Naomi confronted her gently. She asked whether Elena was still protecting her heart or whether she was already losing it. Elena could not answer immediately. She confessed that when she looked at Amara, she did not see a criminal. She saw a woman who had made one desperate mistake in a life filled with responsibility. Naomi listened in silence, fighting her own fear, not just of scandal, but of losing Elena emotionally. Yet beneath that fear was compassion. Naomi had grown up in poverty herself. She understood desperation. As weeks passed, the connection between the three women became a quiet triangle of emotion. Naomi began to speak more kindly to Amara during inspections. She asked about the books she was reading, about her sister, about the small details that made her human. Amara responded cautiously at first, but slowly trust formed. It was not a dramatic transformation. It was built from brief eye contact, from shared silence, from the absence of cruelty. The greatest challenge came when another officer accused Elena of favoritism. Rumors began circulating among staff that she was too lenient with inmate 417, and internal review was threatened. Elena faced the possibility of suspension. The walls that once felt solid now seemed to close in around her. Naomi stood by her side, but the strain was visible. Their relationship, once quietly stable, trembled under pressure. During this time, Amara withdrew completely. She refused yard time. She avoided eye contact. She feared she had become a burden, that her presence was costing Elena everything she had built. One evening, as snow fell heavily outside, Elena was assigned unexpectedly to another block pending review. She walked past Amara's cell without stopping, forced to maintain distance. The look in Amara's eyes as she passed, hurt, confused, resigned, pierced her more sharply than any accusation. If you believe in kindness, take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that compassion can survive even in the darkest places. The internal investigation lasted 3 exhausting weeks. Naomi gathered evidence of Elena's professionalism, highlighting years of commendations and spotless conduct. She argued that empathy did not equal misconduct. In quiet moments alone, Naomi confronted her own heart. She realized that loving Elena meant supporting her truth, even if that truth was complicated, and slowly she acknowledged another truth. Her feelings toward Amara were no longer purely protective. They were tender, cautious, and deeply human. When the review concluded, Elena was cleared of wrongdoing due to lack of evidence. The relief was overwhelming, but it came with clarity. She could not continue pretending her heart was untouched. The following days were marked by an unspoken understanding among the 3 women. There was no dramatic confession, no reckless behavior. Instead, there was honesty in their eyes. Over time, Naomi and Elena began advocating for Amara's early parole, based on good behavior and community ties. They helped her enroll in educational programs, ensured she had access to legal resources, and supported her application quietly, within the boundaries of policy. Their actions were careful, measured, ethical. What bound them was not physical desire but emotional recognition. They had all been shaped by hardship. They had all known what it meant to survive. Spring arrived, and with it a parole hearing. The morning of the decision, the prison felt unbearably still. Elena stood at her post, hands steady but heart racing. Naomi watched from across the corridor. When the announcement came that Amara's sentence would be reduced for exemplary conduct, a collective breath seemed to release. The day Amara walked out of Blackridge, there were no dramatic embraces. Officers were required to maintain composure. Yet as she stepped beyond the gates, she turned once, her eyes finding Elena and Naomi. In that look was gratitude, sorrow, and something that promised continuation beyond walls. Months later, outside the shadow of the prison, the 3 women met again, this time without uniforms, without bars between them. Healing was not immediate. The power imbalance had to be addressed honestly. They navigated their emotions slowly, respecting boundaries, acknowledging past roles. What grew between them was unconventional and fragile, yet rooted in mutual respect. Love did not erase what had happened. It grew from it. Their story was not about rebellion against rules, but about transformation within them. It was about 3 women who found understanding in unlikely places. It was about choosing compassion over judgment, growth over shame. Elena learned that strength could coexist with vulnerability. Naomi discovered that love multiplied rather than divided. Amara realized that her worst mistake did not define her entire life. Please comment below and tell us where you are watching from and whether you have ever seen kindness change someone's destiny. As years passed, Blackridge remained standing, its walls unchanged. But the lives of those 3 women moved forward with quiet courage. They built something steady and honest, founded on the knowledge of how easily life can fracture and how carefully it can be rebuilt. Their love was not loud. It did not demand attention. It simply endured, shaped by hardship, protected by understanding. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that love can grow even in the coldest places, please engage with this video and share it with others. Your support helps stories of compassion reach people who may feel forgotten. Because sometimes, behind steel doors and under fluorescent lights, the most unexpected love stories begin not in defiance, but in the quiet decision to see each other as human,